But we're going to begin with that exclusive new information on Philip Garrido. NBC's George Lewis is outside of the Garridos' home in Antioch, California. George, good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Meredith. We've all heard about the 1977 rape conviction of Philip Garrido, but now NBC News has learned of other rape allegations in California and Nevada, cases that were never prosecuted. In one instance, the alleged victim was a young 14-year-old girl who refused to take the stand against Garrido.
Antioch, California Police Lieutenant Leonard Orman says an old case has new significance.
The victim was how old at the time?
About 14 years old.
One April evening in 1972, he says, the alleged victim and a girlfriend went to the public library to meet a couple of boys. One of them was Philip Garrido, 7 years older than the girl. With Garrido at the wheel, apparently high on drugs, the lieutenant says, they drove through the streets of Antioch, where police tried to pull them over.
At some point, they're able to lose the police, and that's when they go to Mr. Garrido's home.
At the house, the girls were taken to a shed out back, where Lieutenant Orman says they partied, the girls given drugs. It continued at a local motel, where the girl who had been with Garrido told police she was sexually assaulted repeatedly. She was eventually discovered by her parents.
The victim made a decision not to testify, therefore the case was dropped.
That was shortly before Garrido married his first wife, Christine, who earlier this week told Inside Edition about his alleged sexual appetites.
Multi-partners is what he wanted, and I wouldn't go for that.
In 1977, Garrido was convicted of kidnapping and raping a woman in Nevada and served 11 years. This is the arrest report obtained by NBC News. The prosecutor in that case says 1 hour before the victim was abducted, Garrido tried to handcuff and kidnap another woman, but that she got away. The judge in the trial would not allow testimony about that earlier incident.
I could look right through the fence and see him in there.
Back in Antioch, a neighbor says he observed wild parties in the complex of sheds and tents behind the Garrido house.
They were just drinking and high-fiving and carrying on and, you know, hollering. Music was loud. It's hard to tell because the music was really loud. Big bonfire was going on and, you know.
Women?
Didn't see any women over there at all.
Did you hear any women?
Well, they're doing an investigation and I can't say for sure.
He says the FBI has now asked him not to discuss that.
What law enforcement wants to know is, were there multiple victims and perhaps multiple predators? As the story of what went on here at the Garrido house gets more twisted with every passing day. Meredith?
Yeah, it just keeps unwinding. George Lewis, thank you very much. And Lieutenant Leonard Orman, who you just saw in George's report, is with us exclusively. Lieutenant Orman, good morning to you.
Good morning.
You know, what's starting to emerge here, Lieutenant, is the picture of a man with a history of sexual assault that stems back way before the alleged abduction of Jaycee. Now we have these allegations that he raped a 14-year-old in 1972. I know that case was dropped because she refused to testify, but do you believe that that may have been the start of his sexual crime spree?
It's certainly an indication that it started early on in his life.
Yeah, in re-examining this case, Lieutenant, what did the circumstances surrounding it tell you about this man, Philip Garrido? What insight do you
in my
get
opinion,
from it?
In my opinion, the 1972 case certainly indicates that he is a predator, somebody that wants to prey on younger girls.
You know, you look at this case, the 72 case, again, charged with rape. The charges are dropped. Then 4 years later, he does indeed kidnap and rape a 25-year-old woman, serves 11 years of a prison sentence before he is paroled. And then a few years later, allegedly abducts Jaycee. And for the next 18 years, she is living in his backyard. He fathers 2 of her children. All the time, he is a registered sex offender, and he has regular visits from parole officers. Leaves a lot of people scratching their heads wondering, how can that happen?
It's a very unusual situation. I don't think it happens very often. I think if it's a perfect storm type situation where he had the type of lot and house that he could accomplish this sort of thing. He was able to disguise it very well.
Do you believe in most cases, because there are literally thousands and thousands of sexual offenders on the registries throughout the country, do you believe that most of them are carefully monitored?
I think everybody's doing their best. I think that we try and identify those that we think are going to reoffend and pay a lot of attention to those folks, but obviously the numbers are overwhelming.
And yet in this case, here was a great example of someone who might be likely to reoffend, and nobody picked up on anything. They
certainly did not pick up on the fact that he had these people secreted in his yard. That's correct.
Lieutenant, do you think that there will be other victims found along the way as this case continues to unravel?
I think we have a long way to go. I think there's a lot more to be looked at, and it would not surprise me at all if more victims were located.
When you say there's a lot more to be looked at, what do you mean?
All agencies, just specific to the county that I am in, Contra Costa, we are all looking at cold cases that we have that this person may have been responsible for, and that will be a very long process.
All right, Lieutenant Leonard Orman, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you.